Back then, keeping food cold didn't mean plugging something into the wall. It meant bringing an actual block of ice into your kitchen. And believe it or not, some homes even had tiny elevators just to move dinner between floors. Today, we're taking a trip back in time to look at old home features that completely disappeared from everyday life. And honestly, some of these might feel strangely nostalgic. If you remember any of these, go ahead and comment below because chances are you grew up in a totally different America than kids today. Before electric refrigerators became normal in homes, families relied on something called an icebox. Sometimes called a cold closet, this early version of a refrigerator became incredibly popular during the early 1900s. Instead of electricity, it worked using a giant block of ice stored in a compartment near the top. The cold air from the melting ice slowly traveled downward, helping keep meat, milk, and other food cool in the lower sections. These ice boxes were carefully designed with thick, hollow walls lined with metal like tin or zinc, and then packed with insulation materials such as cork, sawdust, or even straw to help trap the cold air inside. Of course, the ice didn't last forever, so families regularly had to replace it. That's where the Iceman came in. People would actually buy fresh blocks of ice and have them delivered straight to the house. For families back then, this was revolutionary because it allowed food to stay fresh much longer without needing to smoke, salt, or dry everything. It's honestly wild to think about how much work people had to do just to keep milk cold. Imagine explaining that to someone today. Another feature you used to see in older American homes were transom windows. These were the small windows placed right above doors, especially common in houses built before air conditioning became widespread. Back then, keeping a home cool during summer was a real challenge. So these windows helped circulate fresh air throughout the house without needing to leave doors wide open. The smart part was that they sat high above eye level, meaning families could still get airflow and sunlight while keeping privacy inside the room. Some of them could even be open using special tools called transom operators. And honestly, they added a beautiful old-school charm that modern homes rarely have anymore. A lot of old houses still have these windows today, but many people probably walk past them without even realizing what they were originally for. If you've ever seen one in a grandparent's house or an old school building, you know exactly the kind of vibe we're talking about. Back in the 18th and 19th centuries, having a parlor inside your home was considered a major sign of status. This wasn't just another room in the house. This was the room. Families used parlors to welcome guests, show off expensive furniture, display artwork, and basically prove they were respectable members of society. People often called it the best room because it was decorated far more nicely than the rest of the house. Weddings, funerals, births, and important family gatherings all happened there. In many homes, the room stayed closed off most of the time, so it would remain spotless and ready for visitors at any moment. Parlors usually included elegant chairs, a sofa, detailed rugs, and sometimes even a piano for entertaining guests with music. But over time, American homes started changing. Once televisions, family rooms, and more casual living spaces became popular, the formal parlor slowly faded away and eventually evolved into what we now simply call the living room. And honestly, there's something kind of fascinating about the idea of having an entire room in your house that was basically too fancy to use every day. If your grandparents ever had one of those "don't sit in there" rooms, you already know exactly what this felt like. In many large homes throughout the late 1600s all the way into the early 1900s, servants' quarters were considered an essential part of the house. These were the spaces where household staff lived and worked, usually separated from the main family areas. In smaller homes, the quarters were often tucked away in basements or attics, while massive estates sometimes had entire wings dedicated to servants. The whole idea was to keep workers close enough to help whenever they were needed, but still mostly hidden from guests in everyday family life. Looking back now, these quarters tell us a lot about how different social classes lived during those times. The contrast between wealthy families and the people working for them was incredibly noticeable, and homes themselves were designed around that separation. Today, most people can't even imagine living in a house with maids, cooks, chauffeurs, and full-time staff all under one roof. But back then, for wealthy Americans, it was simply part of daily life. Before indoor air plumbing became common, Simple things like washing your face or brushing your teeth look completely different from today. Homes used wash basins and pitchers instead of sinks with running water. These sets were usually placed on wooden wash stands made from materials like walnut or mahogany, giving them an elegant appearance despite their everyday purpose. The setup was pretty straightforward. A pitcher held water, and the basin underneath was used for washing up in the morning or before bed. It became part of everyone's daily routine long before bathrooms as we know them existed. And honestly, it's kind of hard to imagine starting your day without turning on a faucet. As indoor plumbing slowly spread across America, these wash stands began disappearing from homes. But for a long time, they were absolutely essential. If you've ever seen one sitting in an antique store or inside an old farmhouse, now you know exactly what it was used for. Another forgotten feature found in many Victorian-era homes was the coal chute. Before electricity and modern heating systems took over, homes relied heavily on coal to keep warm during freezing winters. Coal chutes were built directly into the foundation walls of houses and allowed delivery workers to dump coal straight into the basement. Usually there was a small metal door outside the home connected to a slanted tunnel leading down to a storage room near the furnace. Delivery workers would unload large amounts of coal for the week, and even today, some of those old basement walls are still stained black from years of coal dust. It's honestly crazy to think that heating your house once involved actual truckloads of coal sitting underneath your living room. Another thing many older homes once depended on was knob and tube wiring. This early electrical system was commonly used from the 1880s through the 1930s and involved insulated copper wires stretched through walls and ceilings using porcelain knobs and tubes to keep everything in place. At the time, it was considered an affordable and efficient way to wire a house for electricity. But compared to modern systems, it had some major problems. There was no grounding wire for safety, and over the years, the exposed wiring became vulnerable to wear, heat, and physical damage. As American homes started using more appliances and demanding more electricity, knob and tube wiring quickly became outdated and eventually dangerous. Today, finding it in a house usually means expensive repairs are coming soon. Still, it's one of those forgotten details that reminds us just how new electricity really was for the average American family not that long ago. Imagine being alive during the moment homes first started lighting up at the flip of a switch. That must have felt unreal. Long before supermarkets stayed open all night and refrigerators became standard in every kitchen, families depended on fresh milk deliveries almost every single morning. And to make those deliveries easier, many homes had something called milk doors built directly into the walls. These small insulated doors worked from both sides. The milkman would place fresh bottles of milk into the compartment from outside the house, and the family could grab them safely from inside without ever opening the front door. It sounds simple now, but back then this was considered incredibly convenient. The design also helped protect the milk from weather, stray animals, and even thieves. For families during those years, having fresh milk delivered daily was completely normal. Kids today probably can't even imagine a time when someone brought milk directly to your house before sunrise. And honestly, there's something weirdly nostalgic about the image of glass milk bottles sitting outside on a quiet American porch early in the morning. If you remember seeing those, comment below because that's a memory a lot of people miss. Another feature that once represented luxury in American homes was the butler's pantry. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, this special room sat between the kitchen and dining room and acted as a preparation area for serving meals. The pantry was mainly used for storing expensive items like silverware, fine china, serving trays, and large dishes used during formal dinners. It was also where tasks like polishing silver and organizing dining supplies happened behind the scenes before guests arrived. In some wealthy homes, the butler was even responsible for guarding valuable items stored there, and occasionally they would sleep nearby to keep an eye on everything. It really shows how formal and structured households used to be compared to modern homes today. Even though most families no longer employ butlers, butler's pantries still exist in some modern luxury homes. Now they're mostly used as extra kitchen storage or staging areas for parties and holiday meals. But the original purpose tells us a lot about how important formal dining once was in American culture. One of the most fascinating forgotten inventions inside old homes has to be the dumbwaiter. Despite the unusual name, these small freight elevators were incredibly useful. especially in large multi-story houses. Dumbwaiters were designed to carry food, laundry, dishes, and other household items between floors without forcing someone to carry everything up and down stairs constantly. Bef- Another detail you rarely see anymore is picture rails. These decorative wooden moldings ran along the upper portion of walls near the ceiling and gave families a way to hang artwork without damaging plaster walls. Instead of hammering nails directly into fragile walls, people would hang pictures using hooks and wires attached to the rail itself. This made it easy to move paintings around while also protecting the structure of the room. Picture rails became especially popular in homes built during the 1800s and early 1900s because they combined practicality with elegant design. And honestly, a lot of these old features had way more personality than modern homes today. It's kind of amazing how many little things disappeared once technology changed the way Americans lived. Some of these features may look outdated now, but at one point they were considered cutting edge and absolutely essential for everyday life. If this video brought back memories for you or reminded you of something from your grandparents' house, let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip through old school America, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves nostalgia as much as you do.